Hey guys, I just thought I'd make a video. I hadn't made one in a while, and it's probably a good time to make one because I kind of got hit with a bowling ball today. I knew it was coming one day, and it was. I thought I'd have a little more time, but thanks to coronavirus and thanks to just where I live, and thanks to other things, it's here. Um, Mom just found out from her job. My mom was a secretary at a realty company that. Hope you can hear me okay. Is fan. I'm hot. I just got done taking a shower. I hadn't bathed in a few days, so if I'm going to get around people, I kind of need to stay clean, so I don't stink. Um, but she found out at her realty company as a secretary that she's not needed now. Um, because they're not doing anything. Nobody's buying homes, nobody's doing nothing. She'll go in for inventory every um, couple of weeks, and then she'll get $15 for that, and that's about it. I mean, it's 15, 20, something like that. Um, so all we'll get is my disability, her widow's pay. She draws widow's pay. I don't know how she does that, but obviously since she's a widow, we found out about that many years ago, and she's able to draw that now. And that's it, basically. And then, of course, when the government money runs out from the COVID thing, well, I got really angry today. I kind of blew up at her. I didn't cuss or beat her, or nothing like that. It was just, I think I just let out a lot of anger. Part of it's her fault in some ways, not the job part. I mean, that's not, that ain't her fault, but it's just my life, I think that's why I blew up at her. I just lost it. I left today and I went out and just kind of let off anger. I didn't break anything, or nothing like that, but I just went out, and because now I won't be able to go as much as I do. Not that I do a hell of a whole lot anyway, but I did get to do some things. I was hoping when the coronavirus, when this all went away, that I could at least maybe a little bit go out of town, just a little bit, like an hour away, I'm just not going to be able to do that. There's no money now. I really sank into depression when she told me. I knew it was coming. Eventually, I mean, it was going to come one day, but I knew it was coming, and I don't know. It just seems like my life just continues. Every time I make a video, it's bad news now. It's never good anymore. Nothing is. And I was just sitting there thinking that. I just cried the other day. It was like I don't know. Like I just gave up. I just quit caring. I'm just so tired of suffering so much. I'm just tired of never being able to be happy, and it's just like, I don't understand why my life has to be the way that it is every day. I don't understand why I can never just have just little things, I'm going to make a video about, the one thing that I enjoy in my life is attraction from women that I seem to have a little bit. I'm going to make a video about that. It's going to be a separate video from this, but that's the only joy that I get, man. It's the only happiness I get, literally. I'm glad to have that. Most guys don't have that. But when you have nothing else, you just don't have anything. I mean, you don't have anything else, man. I mean, the last couple of years, man, since 2018 have been literally a walking nightmare. Literally. I mean, there is no silver lining anymore. Like, I don't wake up and go, boy, you know, I look forward. Yeah, it's not real good right now, but man, I look forward to blah, 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 blah. Nothing. There's nothing to look forward to. Nothing but depression. That's all it is, man. I blew up at Mom because I got mad, you know, that she ever got married and had me. And I mean, I mean most of what I say. I guess I get it. Well, I was going to say you don't want to end up like me, but I wouldn't have ended up like me if my situation had been different. But sorry about my shirt. It keeps kind of going down there. But, I mean, come on, man. We know better than this. Everybody knows about why my life's like it is. And I'm going to make a whole series of videos on that for me, mainly. Because I'm going to save them and I'm going to download them. And because I know that I was, in a lot of ways, not completely, but in a lot of ways, I was a victim of circumstance. And what else could I do? Like, I don't know. It's just like, you know, you have to look at everybody. And everybody in my family is happier than I am. Everybody. Like, you couldn't find one person more miserable than me, except for maybe my cousin, because, you know, of my aunt passing away, you know. I mean, other than that, you know, obviously that's not good. But other than that, nobody is, you know. They don't know, man. They don't know what it's like to never have had real friends in their life. Because people, you know, and it's for many reasons. Part of the reason I didn't have friends was my disability, you know, my social problems, my social awkwardness from the disabilities. And then part of it was because people are just so horrible to be around. It's so much different for a guy than it is a woman to have friends. And like I said, I'll get into that in another video too, but it's just, let's just say it's true. It's not the same for a guy as it is for a girl. For a girl. I never got to date, ever. I've never been on a date. Think about that. How many guys do you know in middle age that have never been on a date? Come on, man. Even the biggest loser in the world has been on a date. I've never been on a date. And that's a lot of reasons, because of partly my disability again, not being able to drive all them years, never having money, just a lot of things, you know. Of course, I mean, Mom would be like, well, I'll drive y'all around. Nowadays, I wouldn't care, you know, back then, but, you know, back then it was so embarrassing. I mean, you're a guy, you're supposed to take a girl, not with your mom around, you know. And, I don't know, man. I just know the best days, I think, for me are long gone. And makes you so sad, you know. It just makes me so depressed, you know. I mean, it's just like, you know, how many people do you know that have never worked? And I mean, of course, that'll be, oh, that's just because he's lazy. And, you know, they don't know the situation because of my disabilities again. And of course, when you're a man, everything's different. Men and women are different. They're judged differently. They're treated differently. And it just continues, never stops, you know. Give me a sip of my drink. I was just sitting there thinking, it's like, you know, at least some people, yeah, they have hard times, but they're at least happy sometimes, you know. Yeah, you're right, Muslim. Men and women are just treated differently. And, you know, I wanted to think all this time, all the things I've gone through. I mean, let's just go through what I've been through just in the last 3 years. not counting having an autistic disorder for pretty much most of my life. Didn't know I even had the disorder until I was about 30 years old. I had that. I lost my father at 5 years old, a week before my 5th birthday. Really? Dies of cancer, a week. I mean, he had the cancer before, but my father dies at 32 years old, a week before my 5th birthday. I just saw that you're live right now. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. But yeah, take the autistic disorder, losing my father at 5 years old, week before my 5th birthday. Sorry about that. Volume was getting up on that TV. Losing my father at 5 years old, week before my 5th birthday. He dies at 32 years old. Oh, and by the way, this is just for a little bonus. He dies on my aunt's birthday. My aunt, the one that just passed away from COVID about a month and a half ago. Can't make this stuff up, man. I mean, it's like I'm cursed, And I, struggled all through school, didn't get my diploma, so I didn't get to go to college. And I took a college test, and I did so well on the test because it was asking things that I know a lot about back then. And I was like, 19 years old, 19, 20 years old? It was asking about philosophy, religion, theology, psychology, things. And I did so well, they thought I looked very young for my age when I was 22. I mean, when I was 20 years old. And I remember they looked at me and they were like, have you been to college before? I'll never forget being told that. Have you been to college before? And I thought, no, I'm only 20 years old. Or I was 19, I think. And I thought, no. And I'll never forget. They looked at me and he said, wow, because you know so much. He said, I thought you might have gone to a university, because this is pre-internet for most people. I had the internet, but it's not like it is now. And he said, I thought that, you had so much knowledge, I figured you had gone to some kind of college or university. That made me feel so special because that's saying, wow, you're a smart guy. You know a lot. It's because I read all the time. And I don't know, man. I just don't know. Makes you mad. Then I ended up, having a lot of issues. It ended up having sleep problems a year and a half after that. I ended up having sleep problems. It ended up being put on a well, let me go back right before that. Because at 21 years old, I ended up getting a job. My first job. And actually, no, 20 years old. Yeah, 20 years old. My bad. Sorry about that. This was right before I tried to go to college. I got a job at a grocery store. My mom made me go, basically. I didn't want to go. And it wasn't because I was lazy. It was because I, deep down, worried I couldn't do the job back then. I get the job. I couldn't do the job. I mean, I could do it, but I was so slow at it. You know what I mean? It would be like if you played football. Oh, you could play football. You knew how to run the ball. You knew how to hold it. But let's say you were so slow or you were so weak, right? Well, they're going to go, this guy ain't good enough to be on the team. He may be trying hard, but he's not good enough. And, we're going to have to cut him. And, of course, that's what they do, right? And that was what was about to happen to me. I was about to get the version of getting cut. I was trying to get, and this was not a big grocery store, okay? This is not like some major Walmart or whatever chain. This was a small family grocery store. It was a ShopRite Foodland. This is a long time ago. And I was going so slow at it and screwing up at it and getting things mixed up, stocking the shelves, and just not quick enough. I understood it. They got to get this done. It's a business. you got to run a business. I wasn't mad because of it. I wasn't angry at them. But they would, I remember one time I almost cut myself several times with the blade. Crap, what do you call it? Box cutter. That you would open the thing with. It was such a nightmare. And you could tell they would look at me like I was just off, And I think they thought I was stupid. And I know they were going to fire me. There was no doubt I was going to get fired. And I thought, I'm not getting fired. Like, no way, And I just finally quit. I had Mom go in and tell them I just couldn't do it. I couldn't even face them at that time. Nowadays, I'd go in, but back then I was so much like a child. It would have been like making a 12-year-old go to work. You know what I mean? It was just like, I just couldn't face it. And I kind of ran with my tail between my legs. And on top of it, I hated the people I worked with. It was a bunch of stupid guys. And these were macho guys, attitude, and I know they looked at me as a moron. I wasn't stupid, I remember one guy tried to get me to do his job for him. And this is back when I was wimpy. I was the wimpy guy. And I remember that he tried to get me to do the job, and I actually started doing it. And I remember one of the guys walked over and said, "Man, don't do that shit." I remember that was what he said. And I'm like, "What?" And I remember he told me he was just trying to get me to do work. He was trying to get me to do his job. And I'll never forget. I hate to be rambling about this. It's just, when I'm thinking of it, I talk about it. And I'll never forget that it was the first time I'd heard a lot of cussing, bad language in my life. I was pretty sheltered in that way. My mom was not a filthy language person. The only people that used filthy language were, quote unquote, back then, kids. The parents were good. It ain't like nowadays where the parents are cussing out one side of their mouth out the other. Back then, you didn't have a lot of that. Unless, a parent got angry and they might say damn or hell or something like that. It was not, parents didn't cuss like that a lot. And I go to work, and I remember when I went in for I had gone to the rehabilitation center that helped you train for a quote unquote job. And I remember that's how I got the job. And I went over there, and the manager was just like the happy manager that you'd see on TV. The hello, come work for our store, And then I remember after he started coming there, he just cussed like crazy. Oh, fucking shit, fucking bitch, and all this, and I'm just going, I couldn't believe it, because like I said, you didn't hear that stuff back then. It's not like today. And I was just really, and they cussed all the time. And it just bothered me. And I hated it. It was just such a nightmare, that job was. I hated it so much. And I'm thinking, if a job like that was bad, what the hell am I going to do? So I quit, and I never went back. And I was only there for a couple of weeks, about a month, probably right at a month. And I just hated the job. God, I just hated it. And I went home and stayed to myself. I remember, and then we moved from where I lived at and moved here. And at the time, that was so horrible for me. I went through severe depression leaving my home. Yeah, we only moved 20 minutes away, but I might as well have moved to another country. I might as well have moved to Russia, as horrible as it was for me. And it was just, I don't know, man. I was so sad at that time. I went through, and a lot of that I know now is because of the autism. Change is very hard for some reason for our brains to deal with. I would be better at it now than I was then, but it would still be hard for me today. Still would be hard for me to move anywhere. Still would be. And I just remember being so sad, and depressed. And that was when I started going over and seeing my grandmother all the time. And, me and her became very close. She was my only grandparent I had left, And I was only about 21 years old, and we became close. Then at 22 years old, I had severe insomnia. Probably a lot of it was not eating right, obviously, back in that day and time. And part of it, too, was being autistic. I now know autistic people have lots of sleep problems. I always have my whole life. That's how I ended up on the meds. They put me on Zoloft. I stayed on it for many years, had horrible reactions to it. But it finally stopped. I was scared to quit because I was scared I couldn't sleep. I was terrified. It was pretty awful. Oh, yeah, there's one thing I forgot to mention. If anybody wants to hear about it, I can mention it real quick. I should have mentioned it and forgot it. Let's go back to when I was 17 years old. At 15, I became a Christian. Took it very seriously. Changed my whole life because I was suicidal when I was 14. Not that I was going to do it, but it's kind of where you're like, boy, I just wish I was out of here. Kind of like that. It wasn't that I was really crying and was going to do it. It was just that, boy, this life kind of stinks, man. Maybe I should just get out of all this. But at 15, thanks to a man that I knew that talked with me, he was one of the few mentors in my life I ever had, talked to me about the Bible. I became a Christian, changed my whole life at that time. I grew up. I quit cussing. I became a very serious Christian, talked to people about the Bible, about Jesus Christ. I mean, I was the real deal. I did the best I could. I quit watching bad videos, because I would do back then it was pornography. You had to rent tapes and things like that. And I would do stuff like that. I quit doing that. I quit watching sports just about because all I was focused on was my Christianity. That was it. And I took it very seriously. And it changed my whole life. And I thought, I'm going to be a minister. I started getting up in front of the people, reading. I had never done anything like this before. I was so proud of myself. I got up in front of the people. I read the Bible reading that you would do at church. I never did the announcements. I was always scared I'd screw that up. But I would do the Bible reading, prayer, and then I started preaching. The sermons weren't great. I was never very great at it. I didn't think I was. I have them on tape, all 12. I preached 12 sermons, yeah. Got paid for it. And it was so funny that I almost had the feeling of what it was like to be an alpha male. For the first time, people respected me. They would say hi to me when they saw me. I'd never had that before. They would say hello to me in town. They would say hello to me if we were anywhere. Women were nicer to me. And I've always wondered if it was because I was always a cute kid, and I was kind of, doing something that most people wouldn't do. You would look at that as a great thing, being a preacher, a minister, what denominations would call a pastor, right? So I'm sure women were impressed by that. I was kind of the alpha male. And women would flirt with me. Not sexual flirting. This is church we're talking about. But I would have wives of women, and they would tell me, they'd come up and hug me and tell me how proud and how sweet I was. And boy, they wished their daughter would marry me. I mean, it was one of the happiest times of my life. I can believe that. Sounds like you and me were very similar. You grew up on a farm. My mom grew up on a farm. It's funny. During that time, getting back to my story, it was the happiest time that I ever had. I thought I'd figured my life out. This is what I was going to do with my life. Be a preacher. Who knows, I may be a missionary and just go all over the world and save the world. And boy, did I know what was going to crash down on me that next year. At 17, might have been 16, can't exactly remember, but I remember when it happened. In about a year or so after I'd been a Christian, the OCD kicked in. I probably had always had OCD, but it was not affecting my life quite like this was. And I would start thinking filthy thoughts. cuss words constantly, would not stop. It would literally draw out in my head. Like it was like my mind was like a chalkboard, and like take the word damn, it would constantly write that out and would not stop. I would have to do everything I could to stop it. Never stopped. It would be worse when I went to church. It got worse when I read the Bible. It got worse, worse, worse. I would try to talk to people about it. Nobody understood it. It's just the devil getting a hold of you. I'll just quit doing it, Shane. Just stop. Just stop. I couldn't stop. And I would also think filthy thoughts. Naked. I would be sitting at church and boom, I would think of a naked woman, right? Her breasts are showing. Other thing, back when I would watch porn before all that happened, before I became a Christian, I did those things. And, it would just haunt me. And it wouldn't stop. It would not stop. It was nonstop 24 hours a day. It would literally, I would cry in my room. The only way it stopped was when I finally just got away from it all. I finally quit preaching. I just gave it up. It was part-time kind of thing. And I gave it. And by the way, to show how good you have an artistic talent, that's great. My talent was, I thought, public speaking. It's funny that when I preached, I used to help out at this nursing home. I didn't do this but for a very short period of time, about a couple weeks. And I went to the nursing home, and this man was in there who had been a minister, a very well-respected minister in our area. He'd been a preacher for a long time. He was an older man, and his mind was kind of going, And I think he was having, he'd kind of forget what he was talking about in 2 minutes, that kind of thing. Just, very disabled by then. He was about in his mid-80s. And I'll never forget, but they said he always was faithful to come to Bible study. And when I would do the classes, it was just a short little lesson, he would show up. And he always was in the front row, had his Bible with him. And I'll never forget when it was over, he came up to me and shook my hand and patted me. I'll never forget him saying this. And he was kind of a country man, And I remember he went, boy, and I remember how he said it, boy, I think the devil has left you alone. The devil has left you alone. And I'll never forget that. Boy. Tell you that if I had known back then, boy, now I'd say no, the devil hasn't left me alone. He was a Campbell. His last name was Campbell, and I would think, boy, Mr. Campbell, you were wrong, man. You didn't know you were a good man, but boy, how wrong you were. Not only has the devil not left me alone, either he ain't real and God's not real, or he's overtime on me, because it just, I don't know, man. Never stops, Yeah, it's a good point about the compliments. It just hurts in the long run. It does. Because that was the one time, Muzzle, that I felt special. Man, I felt like I was somebody, and I was somebody. In that little community, it was kind of like I was the chief in that community for a while. It felt great because I'd never been told I was good at anything. I'd never had anybody really, I was an afterthought. I didn't exist very much. And it just felt good, but boy, did that come crashing down. And eventually, when I was about 27 years old, I think part of it was that the drugs were affecting me. And I think that I was it was what they call tolerance. The drug quit working even while I was taking it, and I was going into withdrawal, not knowing it. Obviously, I didn't know any of that at the time. So my brain was technically going into withdrawal, and I think it upped my OCD severely. And it got so bad I quit going to church because of how the mental thoughts would just drive me crazy. I was literally going insane. It was that bad. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that. And I just quit. My mom had done quit going and, would give me a hard time every time I wanted to go to church. I couldn't drive back then. And it was just like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And then, of course, at 28, I'd had the epiphany that I'm going to quit. I'm getting off these drugs. I got to turn my life around. I was going to quit the drugs, get the legal drugs, the prescribed garbage that they gave me. I was going to quit it, give it about 2 months because I wanted to make sure, that I was okay. And I was going to give it 2 months, and then I was going to try to drive first, learn how to drive a car, and then try to get some kind of job. And then I was hoping at that time get married, meet somebody and maybe one day get married. Boy, I didn't know, man. I didn't know what I was in for when I quit that drug. Of course, I didn't know about tapering. None of that was around back then. Nobody knew that. Doctors never told you. I'll just quit. And I quit on my own. I never told them because they didn't want me to quit. No, you need to stay on this the rest of your life because of your. And I was like, oh, bull, And I finally just quit on my own. And oh my God, I went into hell. Constant mental symptoms. I had severe anxiety, severe panic attacks, crying spells, and this was every day, months and months and months of just suffering. I would go back on the drug because I couldn't endure the hell, the constant suffering. I would go back on the drug. I remember going back on it, and it would ease my symptoms. It would ease my symptoms. And then I would try to get off again because I hated being on that drug. It made me tired all the time, and I hated it. And it also numbed me to life. That was part of the reason I didn't do anything for a long time. I was numbed. The drug makes you not care about anything. You're just kind of like, that's kind of what you're like. I think Peter Brigham, the famous protester of the drugs, I think he called it, they put you in a mental lobotomy. You're just nothing when you're on them. And when I finally got off and I quit the second time, I stayed off, and God, did I suffer. I started having physical pains a month later. Oh, just horrible pain. Zaps. It felt like somebody was taking the pin shooters that shoot the pins. It felt like somebody was just taking that and shooting me in the back. Oh, God, it was so horrible. They were just shooting needles. It would just, electric jolts would go through my body. I, of course, thought I was dying. I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I still remember that day like it was yesterday. And I went back on the drug because I didn't know what to do. I was crying every single day. Wanting to die, just wanting to die, I couldn't sleep. I would have electric zaps in my feet and legs. It was so bad that I almost killed myself one night. I had the bottle. That was when I still had the pills. And I was going to turn it up and take every one of them and kill myself because I was suffering so bad. I just wanted the pain to stop, and it didn't. And I just fell on the ground, and I just said, this doesn't have to happen now. Just calm down. And I remember I just laid there on that ground, and I grasped the kitchen counter, and I just kind of laid there for a minute. The pills spilt on the floor. I remember they were all over the floor. And I remember I got them up. I got up a little bit later, and I got all the pills up before she got up because she said, what are you doing? Spilling all the pills? And I didn't want her knowing about that. So I got off the pills. Stayed off of them. Suffered for years. About 3 years of hell. 4 years, technically. Finally, in 2014, I made a friend. We would go out and do certain things, but he never really wanted to do anything fun. I wanted to meet girls. The symptoms had finally almost gone away, and I thought, man, I want to, sorry about that. I wanted to go out and meet girls. I'd never met them. I'd never been on a date. And it had been 4 years since I came off that drug. And I was ready to do something. So I did kind of use him a little bit. But we would go, and he'd drop me off because he worked until 2 in the morning. I would go down to the bars. I didn't drink. I didn't have any money. And I would go and talk to some of them. I never talked to many of the girls, but I would just go in there and look at them. And it was just, wow, because I'd never got to see hot women a lot, like in person, and it was so fun. And then finally one night I just got angry at him because we were out having fun and he just didn't want to do anything else. He just wanted to go home all the time. We would never stay out hardly but like an hour, and then he wanted to go home, and it would just be like, I mean, let's have some fun. He got to date and stuff. I never got to do stuff like this. And that was when I muscled up the courage and learned how to drive. Sorry about that. I had something stuck in my teeth. Okay. Yeah. I was going to say before I get back to that, I saw Jordan Peterson's video. I'm going to make a video on that sometimes too. I sure hope that he comes out and talks more and more about this, because somebody, whether you even agree with Jordan Peterson, his views and everything, somebody that's that known in the limelight could shed some light on this stuff, man. Oh my God. Him having that akathisia, I had that, where you just wanted to die, man. It was so horrible. You just wanted to die, But yeah, getting some trade. I remember he went over there. I mean, he almost died. Yeah, Jordan Peterson almost died. But yeah, getting back to my story, I muscled up the courage to drive. I forced my mom to teach me. She would not teach me. Never would teach me. Every time we'd try, she'd just fight with me. It was so ridiculous, She would get so angry. Hey, why do you want to do this? I don't know. I want to laugh because I'm a guy, And I remember that every time we'd go out, she'd yell and scream at me. That one little mistake I'd make, she'd go nuts. I mean, here I am learning how to drive a car, And I would go out at night when she'd be asleep. And one night I got caught by the cops. You have to know this area. Cops are just freaking everywhere. Because I was trying to learn to drive. She wouldn't help me. And I was just trying to learn. Of course, they got me without a license and they towed the car. I'll never forget it. That was another one of my horrible nights. Like I said, I've had some horrible moments in my life. And she found out about it. Of course, I got in trouble. But I kept trying to drive. I kept going. I just kept going. I kept going. And I finally learned to drive. I went and took the permit test because I had to take it again, failed it the first time, passed it the second time. Went and took the driving test several weeks later, failed it the first time because I didn't know what a 3-point turn was. I'd never been told what that was. Once I learned that, I went 2 weeks later, passed it. I learned to drive. One of the great moments of my life. I never thought I would ever learn to drive because it had always been such a chore with me. I went one time with the man that I told you about was my mentor, kind of like when I was young, and I accidentally wrecked his truck. He told me to turn, and I turned too sharp and hit it, and everybody thought I was an idiot. That's a long story, but I did it this time. And I learned to drive. One of the proudest moments of my life at that time. So I learned to drive. I actually drove more than 2 hours away from my home. I mean, that was just huge for me. I'd never been anywhere in my life. We never went on vacations or did anything. And I finally went and did things. Then, like I said, during that time, I discovered the manosphere, which was great for me. Talking about women and men, about men and how we're treated in society, and how we're expected to be things that women are not. It was just great, Helped me so much. One of the great things I ever did. And then finally, February 2018, I'd been trying to exercise, losing weight, because I wanted to get this weight off. And boy, when I exercised one day, I got on the treadmill. Now, I never jogged, mind you. I just walked. And I didn't walk hard. It wasn't like I was power walking. But I got on the treadmill in my house back here, walked, got off, went and took a shower, and symptoms came back that I'd not had in years. Zaps, electric current feelings, couldn't sleep. I would lay down and try to sleep. Zaps would go through my feet. It was so horrible. And it got worse within weeks. Then I couldn't go in stores. If I went in stores, I would have symptoms all over my body. My God. That whole year. You can go back and watch those videos. I made many videos during that time on my other channel. It was a nightmare. People saw my videos, called the cops because Mom would just scream at me all day long. I would be suffering and crying. I didn't want her to leave me alone. I was going through such hell. I was hurting all the time and just zapping pain in my body, and nothing helped. I just suffered all day. And they're hard to even think about now. And 2018 was a nightmare year. One of the worst years of my life. I suffered every single day after February 5th, every single day. Things didn't start getting halfway better until December. Then 2019 was not great, but it was better. And then 2020, I was so looking forward to finally getting better with symptoms. Oh, by the way, during those times, I ended up breaking my shoulder last year and ended up in a car wreck and totaled the car. That was during the suffering. I got out one day because I was just suffering so bad mentally and physically. I had to leave. And I left, and it was so weird. I had a wreck. It hit on my side, my driver's side, and it crushed me. But I didn't get hurt at all. The guy got a little hurt that hit me, but it was my fault. The wreck was all my fault. Totaled the car. Had to get another car. And then, then this year, I thought, boy, I can't wait. I was so looking forward because things had gotten better, and I was going to try to find some work maybe and do that. And I thought, if I can get through this year, the symptoms can get a little bit better, I'll try. And what happens? COVID happens. Everything goes nuts. Then when things get opened back up, I end up doing the wrong thing. I went out without a mask, ended up catching COVID, gave it to my mom. She gets put in the hospital 2 weeks because she gets so bad. I didn't know I had COVID. It hit her, and somehow my aunt got it. I don't know if it was from me and Mom or if she got it another way. I don't know. She ends up dying from it. Yeah. In 3 weeks, she dies. And then my mom basically loses her job, or at least most of it. And here I am. What a life, huh? Go through all that and tell me you'd be normal. Go through that and tell me you'd be sane, Go through that and tell me you'd be whistling while you get up and go to, or I don't work, but tell me you'd be whistling while you worked. It's my life, man. I have had a nightmare of a life. And I'm still here. Sadly. Mom survives the COVID. My aunt did not. I don't know. I didn't hardly get sick at all from it. I got it and had a few symptoms. Basically just felt like I had kind of a cold. I don't know. Oh my God. How'd you like that quick biography, guys? That's a biography of my life right there. I didn't mean to be on here near this long, but sometimes you just got to get it out. Oh, man. I don't know how long people would listen to this video. I shouldn't have gone that long, but oh, man. I was reading some of your comments while I'm sitting here. My father was impatient with me when I was learning to drive, but did pretty well, though. Yeah. Mom was terrible. I knew she would be. The first day I had tried to drive years and years before, and of course, being an autistic person, I had a lot of issues driving. I was uncoordinated. School was a nightmare because I was so uncoordinated. I always made bad grades because I wasn't coordinated. You know, she was so horrible trying to teach me to drive back then. The driver's ed wasn't much better. First day I was there, they took me right in the middle of downtown. That was a great idea for somebody, like me, but what do you do? And Jordan Peterson talking about his ordeal. Yeah. I tell you what, man, that should tell everybody. If somebody like him, and that's a strong man, Jordan Peterson, I like Jordan Peterson. I like his stuff. I like what he does. He's a strong guy. This is not some pantywaist. This is not some loser, or a guy that has psychotic problems, or a guy that doesn't know how to deal with himself or whatever. And look at what he went through. And he talked about being suicidal. That should give you an idea of what I went through and what others went through from that. And I'm still in it. I'm not over it. I'm still suffering from what happened a year and a half ago. Still am. It's been almost 31 months now. I'm still suffering. I've suffered for 10 years of my life. Lost half my life because of it. Probably never going to be the same again. Well, guys, I guess I need to get off here. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I just felt like I had to just let it all out, Let people, I guess, let the world see who I am. Let the world see what I've gone through. And it's been a nightmare, man. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get off here. I appreciate all of y'all that came on. Thanks for the likes. Everybody hit a like if you can. Like, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. I'd love to get more subscriptions because I could go live. If I can get 1,000 subscriptions, I can live stream, with my phone. I can't do it until I get 1,000 subscribers. I don't have but about 200 and something. Hadn't looked in a while. But guess I'll go ahead and get off here and wrap it up. Like I said, appreciate everybody being here. 8 people are here right now. That's great. 2 likes. I appreciate that. It's tough, guys. And sometimes I think it's just like one of my friends, Brian, online used to say, I think we just get on here because we can't go to a therapist. I can't talk to anybody right now. I don't have the money. And I need professional help, right? You don't need, because people aren't going to understand. They're just going to be like, oh, you're this and you're that. And, I know what, I know what's going on. You're just not dealing with, they're not going to know. And you need somebody that's trained in this that knows how to help somebody. So I'm like, Brian, we just get on here, I think, to spill our guts. It's kind of therapeutic to us. It helps us. I mean, this helped me. I kind of feel a little better. I don't really know why I feel better, but I do. And that's why we do it. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and yeah. I know I'm limited. Yeah. I don't have Asperger's. I don't know what I have. I'm not severely autistic. Like, I'm not, drooling at the mouth and, screaming up the top. I'm not like that, but I'm definitely messed up. And I think I know how I got messed up. And I think it was from a medication that my mom got given to when I was a baby. When I was in the womb. But I'll make a video on that sometime. Hang in there, Muzzle Flash, with the Asperger's. It's tough, I know. It's hard having something like this that nobody understands, and they don't. I just gave up talking to people. I give up talking to people about everything, just about autism, benzo withdrawal, fatherlessness. They just don't get it. I can say one thing, though. One man told me one time about not having a father, and I grew, because they'll tell you, anybody will tell you, any any psychologist will tell you that a boy growing up without a father is bad. It's not good for the child. It's not good for the daughter either, but it really affects the boy. And I remember a man told me one time, he was kind of a country man. He was older at the time, and I don't think he knew how to say it, so he just kind of bursted into it during conversation. And he went, "Boy, Shane, it must have been tough for you growing up without your dad." Nobody ever told me that before. And I went, "Yeah." I was still young at that time. And I was kind of like, "Yeah, it was." And he said, because I had my dad, and I was very lucky to have him. He taught me everything. And he said, and, my dad was my hero. And he said, "I don't know what I'd have done without him." He said, that must have been really hard growing up without a dad. And he didn't even know about the autism or the benzo withdrawal or everything else I went through, But he knew that was bad. And I remember him just saying that. He said, "I'm just sorry you had to go through that." He said that must have been really hard. And I think back on that, and I think, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It was real hard. Because I didn't get the things I needed. And I was kind of ignored in life. Because the dad would have been there for me. He was going to coach my little league when I started public school. That would have been in a couple of months. He was going to coach my little league team. All that disappeared. Sometimes I think what it would have been like if he'd lived. My life might have been a lot different. Well, guys, I guess I'm done. I don't have anything else really to talk about. I don't want to keep y'all any longer. So I guess I'll go ahead and get off here. Thanks for all the likes. Anybody else that watches this video later, please like. Please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. Like I said, let's try to get that to 1,000 if we can one day. I'd love to. I got a ways to go for that. But it'd be nice to have that and be able to do some live streams on my phone. So I'd appreciate it. So thanks, guys. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for everybody being here. I appreciate it. Thanks. Bye-bye. Thanks, Muscle Flash. Thanks for the thumbs up. Thanks to all y'all that were here. Thanks, Matt's gambling stuff. I appreciate that. Thanks for hoping things get better for me. I appreciate that. I'll read some of these comments real fast. Yeah, you're welcome for the life story. I appreciate it, men's gambling stuff. And I appreciate that. And thank you, Muzzle Flash. Take care, guys. Have a good night. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.